seal of God, which is representing His law, which is representing His character. He's supposed to be in our frontal, which is the frontal lobe, which is the area where we interact spiritually with the Lord, and upon our hand, which is what we do. So the Lord wants His character to rule what we think and to rule what we do. He wants us to reflect His image like we had originally. The mark of the beast will come upon our foreheads or our hand, which means that the devil is not caring if you think rightly but act wrongly, or if you act rightly but think wrongly. He just wants to disrupt what Christ is trying to do. He's trying to bring a counterfeit of Christ's character into our being. As far as he destroys or disrupts Christ's character in our life, He's happy. So we are understanding that there's a word out there, and the word is not only spiritual words and spiritual doctrines. This is also important. It has happened. But Satan knows that we are going now to the, is this going? Okay. Final part. He knows there's a conflict. And the final war is a sensorial one. It's a war in the mind, in the senses. It's a war of the senses. So we have to understand this, and that's in this context. So my goal here to speak about vision and multimedia is not that we know all the problems that the industry has. It will be void if we would be like that. The goal is for us to understand how does it plays a role in the scenario of the great controversy, what we are watching, and why did all this evolve from the beginning until where we are now. So this is a very summarized version, but I think it can give us a clue. We spoke about some things relating to the origin of the theatrical industry, which is what led to the entertainment industry, which is what led to what we have now as the multimedia industry. And if you are not aware of this, which I think is most likely not the case, this is one of the biggest industries ever, the biggest fortunes that we find. The richest men in the world are related with this kind of thing somehow, one way or the other. The Pope even met with the leaders from Apple and Google. So he is also aware of the importance that they play in the last scenario, okay? And we spoke about the similitudes. We spoke about the last empire that is going to try to bring out the same doctrines, the counterfeit doctrines from Satan upon the world, a global outreach of this. And we spoke about the similitude and how Satan is misplacing that. Now we're going to go a little bit further on this and understand the effects that this has in us, and understand how we saw the history of the industry and how it interacts with spiritual things. And we're going to see now the effects. I'm going to need here, because I have some statistics that I would like to share with you. You know, for instance, we spoke about that when we were talking about music. Whenever there's a rock concert, some things raise in the order of 500%, like criminology, drug consumption, alcohol consumption, things like that. They really raise when something like that happened. And since media came to the scenario, also many things happen in terms of statistics. Even with the children, the more children are spending time exposed to media, the less they have time for intellectual matters. I saw this interview with Madonna, and Larry King was interviewing her, and he was asking her, I heard that you don't let your kids watch TV. She said, no, my daughter will not watch even this interview. He said, what? Isn't that too extreme? And she said, no, I know what's going on in the industry, and I don't want my daughter exposed into it. And then she gave a link to a website, and I went to check the website, and the website had researchers saying that children under 3 years old should never be exposed to screens and flickering light of a screen or a multimedia device, because that will slow down the process in development with the language and speech and understanding. But we see that statistics show that the more people watch these things, the less they have time for intellectual things. IQ and perception are diminished. They lose stimulus to concentration. You have noticed that since media came, churches have a hard time to keep church going. They need programs that will entertain the members because the members are used to be entertained to a different interaction. And if the church doesn't have a program, they are not interested. Children that are not as much exposed, this is proportional. The more children are exposed to multimedia, the less they are creative. So this is affecting them in several ways. Also, aggressiveness. I remember one day we were in Bolivia, and I saw David and Joel playing, and one turned to the other and said, "You idiot!" And I'm like, "What? What is happening here?" And they just turned to me. I said, "What did you say?" And they said, naturally, I said, "You idiot." Why? And I felt they were not even realizing they said anything wrong. And I said, "Where did you learn that?" "Well, it's the movie The Good Samaritan." I said, "What?" And I went to check this cartoon, and yeah, it's like, they make a plot out of the story. Instead of a simple story, there has to be an entire drama. So the two thieves, we don't even know the names, we don't even know who it was, but in the movie, we see them eating together and saying, "We're going to do this and that," and one is punching the other and saying, "You idiot." I say, "Oh." Then I noticed Rebecca, she loved Esther. This was a series of biblical movies we had. We thought, oh, yeah, biblical. And but then I would see the kids playing around with this guy that is Esther stylist, that is preparing her to meet the king. And the guy is from the other side and say, "Wow, Saracens will be very happy." And I'm like, they will always say this. And I'm saying, you know what? I don't hear this kid repeating the good stuff about these movies. It's just these add-ons that they put that don't even are. And once we were in a little Sabbath school, and this kid is saying, "Oh, yeah, the boy that took the bread to Jesus, the bread and the fishes," and he says a name. I said, "Well, the Bible doesn't say his name." "It says." And so I started seeing a lot of plots and things like that. I started realizing this is not, the effect it has in our kids is really not good. Even if it's biblical thing, we think it's going to be a good effect. Not speaking about the dramas that they put into this. Look, they say, statistics says that hypothetically, if there was no TV, because of the results of the effects of TV, 10,000 homicides a year will not have been committed. 70,000 rapes, 700,000 assaults. And people will tell you, "Oh, no, we know this is wrong. It won't affect me. If I will get this, let's say I would have a gun here, I could go and put this gun," I'm not going to do it, of course, "put this gun in the hand of any one of us, and I know that most of us would know exactly what to do with the gun, how to hold the gun, how to enter through the door, where to stay, how to go and point, how to replace the charge." How do we know all those things? We grew up exposed to training. You understand what I'm saying? They did some researches, and there was this movie, The Fast and the Furious, and they did researches, and they realized that 70% of the people that will come out of the movie theater will come out squeezing their wheels. And what happened to the cars after the movie? Everybody's going nitro, low. I mean, how practical it is for you to go with a car that is this high from the floor, from the road, and then you have to stop and not to bump. It's just because people, their heads are filled up with movies. So of course we're not going to play Superman and jump through the window like it happened in the past with kids, but this is having an influence upon us that we are not noticing. Okay? I have some other statistics here. Stereotypes, racial and sexual stereotypes. if this lecture would be happening 30 to 40 years ago, let's imagine 30 to 40 years ago that somebody will come to the office and say, hello everybody, I have an announcement to make. I am gay. What will happen to this person? The boss will say, okay, could you come here please? Let's talk. What will happen to him? He'll be fired. If somebody today comes to the office and say, I have an announcement to make, and say, I am gay, and the boss calls him to the office and fire him, what will happen to the boss? What changed? Oh, society is more open-minded. Well, I do believe society opened their minds so much that all kind of trash start coming in. You see, the point is that society is being exposed in a situation, and we will see soon, where this is affecting their way of thinking and is changing mindsets. Changing mindsets. Executive producer Dava Savel said, if one episode helps some child to find their identity, their sexual identity, we have fulfilled our job. And then he said, other producer, I don't know if it was him or another one, that said, that's why I produce a lot of comedies. Because when people are laughing about something, they lower their guard and are much more receptive. Okay? So these people, they are aware of what they are doing. 650,000 students and 4,000 schools were part of a research where they realized the connection between the loss of school interest and the media. And of course, we're not even talking about the habits that are connecting to media. The fast food industry that is much connected. I remember that for me it was critical. If I'm going to the movies, I have to buy this certain brand of chocolate that I'm sucking while I watch the movie all time long. Okay? And so what I'm trying to say is, we have sedentary habits as we sit down and let the belly grow, and we eat pizzas and stuff like that. Of course, we eat Adventist pizzas and watch Adventist movies, right? That's what people think. But the effect is basically the same. So I want us to understand how statistics are proving that people say it's not a problem, but that's not what statistics say. Okay? I want to bring a case. It's Mulholland experiment. This man made some researches with kids. Let me see if I can find it here. He made some researches with kids and got those kids connected. Let me find my text here. Here it is. In the 70s, he connected 10 kids. It's not this one, it's a previous experience. He connected 10 kids to the electroencephalographers, and he was projecting to them their favorite TV program. And contrary to what he was expecting, there were no beta waves in the graphic, but beta waves are, we have beta, theta indications of waves. Beta indicate that you are proactive when you're talking, when you're reading, there's a response from you. So he was expecting to find beta waves, but all he found was slow alpha waves, similar to the ones that the graphic will show if you are in a coma or trance. Did you hear what I said? 10 kids plugged to the machine, watching their favorite program, TV program. The machine is not showing like they are active. Now, imagine this. I want you to really picture this. I'm watching a chasing. The police is coming after these guys. Woo! Turning, and shootings and all these, they call action. Violence is a nice name, right? Action. I'm sitting there in a lot of tension, and my brain is like is shut down? Something is not right here. Can you really sense it? So my body is filled up with adrenaline, but my brain is like I'm hypnotized. And he said, after 2 to 3 minutes, they laid back and were generating only alpha brain waves. Only. Now, I know some of you might be a little bit acquainted with advertisement. When I left the publishing house, I went a little bit into the world of advertisement. And in advertisement, we have something that we call below the line and above the line. Below the line is all the advertisement that go to magazine, little billboards and stuff like that, local things. Above the line, it's all the advertisement that goes for TV and things like that. And the prices go skyrocket because it's really effective. So advertisers will tell you, oh, this has no problem. Yeah, come on. It's just going to tell you it's just a little advertisement. But then they will tell the client, man, 2 seconds of this advertisement and your clients will really... Why do you think Super Bowl advertisement is so expensive? Why do you think that TV advertisement is so expensive? Because they know that when you are under an hypnotized or trance mode, you are receiving commands. Did you notice that advertisement always go, drink this, do that, go buy now? They are always giving you commands because they know you're registering this information. And really, as if you were hypnotized. If you hypnotize somebody, you just tell this person, you are a chicken, and the person will be like if it was a chicken. What I'm trying to say is, what is going on here? Look, another experience, a little bit different, but look at the same result. Harvard professor T. Barry Hazelton hooked newborn babies, watch out, miss, not yours, newborn babies up to the electroencephalographs and then expose them, listen to this part, to a flickering light source similar to TV but with no images. So the first experience from Mulholland was with images, but this didn't even have images because some people, have you heard people saying, no, it's not bad in itself, it's what we watch. Okay, that's partially true. But there's more into this, and you have to be aware. Look at what happened with this experience. 15 minutes into their exposure, the babies stopped crying and produced sleep pattern on the electroencephalographers even though their eyes were still open and observing the light. Now, you are not from Harvard, and you don't need any sophisticated experiment. Just check your husband when TV is on. Right? All we need is to see, is the best time to ask, honey, can I have your credit card? Whatever you ask in that moment, whatever you ask will be granted to you. Then he doesn't remember. He doesn't remember. You say, honey, why did you do this? Well, you asked me, I asked you, and you say yes. I said yes. You see? So I want us to understand this. Somehow, this has an effect upon us, and we'll see what is the effect that it's going to have. Okay? We are seeing already some of those results, but I want us to go even deeper on this and understand. The frontal lobe, it's exactly where all the battle is supposedly going to happen. Look at what Dr. Neil Needley is saying. A device that unwittingly puts you into a type of hypnotic trance, something that you focus your eyes on, flickers every few seconds, and can produce this hypnotic-like trance. And then he goes and explains. I don't think I have that quote there. Oh, yeah. In the hypnotized state, an alpha brain, look at it, it's saying the same thing. An alpha brain pattern is operative, during which we do not critically, wait, did you see that? During which we do not critically analyze information. In this state, an individual will record information and suggestion will record information and suggestions without interpretation and without frontal lobe filtering. Now it's coming serious. So, after 2 to 3 minutes, or at most 15 minutes, you are in a mode that whatever is coming through your eyes is going straight to your brain, and you're not really filtering. So it's not true that you are saying, oh, that's not true, and I know. You are not. Your brain is not. And the point is, I didn't say this when I was talking about the movies, but for instance, in the movie Hercules, there's a scene where the Lord of Hades, which is Satan, Hades is the hell, he says, I'm about to reorganize the world, New World Order, and the only idiot that can stop that, he's hanging around. When he says idiot, he stretches his arms, and some flames come out of his head and his arms. And if you would stop your DVD, the flames write the word Jesus. Now let me explain what happens to you. We have the primary, secondary, and third memory. Your brain will capture, noticeably, the word idiot. And at the same time, without you perceiving, will capture the word Jesus. We'll store the first one in the first memory and the other one in the third memory. But we'll connect them. Whenever your brain searches for the word Jesus, will search for the word idiot. And whenever he hears the word idiot, will search for the word Jesus. But the word idiot will be stronger because it was a vivid situation, a noticeable one. Are you seeing what I'm saying here? So, when I put something on TV, this is why the devil invested so much in this industry. When I put something on TV and I have my watchers in a mode that they will grasp and swallow without filtering all that I'm saying, I will be engraving in their minds whatever I'm producing. I'm creating first an addiction. The biggest businesses, careful with the camera there, sister. The biggest businesses are the ones that create addiction. Go to the supermarket and see the shelf where natural juices are. Then look at the shelf where sodas are. I mean, I really look at that and say, whoa, will people really consume all this? And I could think, well, this is sodas, it won't get damaged anyhow in the next 5 or 10 years, but still, it's not. So why people come again to that? Because it's addictive. So the company that's producing there, no, they will have to come for more. I remember I used to say, no, I'm not addicted to cola, I like it. So when I got there, I just asked that. You don't realize the first sign of an addiction is that you say, I don't have it. Yeah? The first sign with this addiction also is that people say they don't have it. And now I'm going to show you how addictive it is. Physically, TV is a physical addiction. And I'm going to explain why. Like music can become physical addictions. Okay? This is the frontal lobe. Now, the frontal lobe is where everything really happens. Is the seat of judgment. So, if you numb the frontal lobe constantly, it's like any other thing in life. If you invest in it, develop it, it will progress, grow, become stronger. If you don't go to the gym, you will shrink. I don't want to talk about this because my wife still has some things to overcome there about me. Because she said when we were courting and after we married. But, so, I want you to understand this. If every day you go through a therapy of 2 to 3 hours, numbing your frontal lobe, what do you think will happen? Now, when you look at what the frontal lobe does, you will see the problem of having your frontal lobe numbed. And you will see where the war of the senses is happening, the battle. Look, the frontal lobe is the seat of judgment. So people start misjudging things. Right with wrong start being misplaced. They start calling wrong right and right wrong. This is what is happening in society. You can say, I was born a pineapple, but I feel I'm a pear, and now I'm a pear. There's this lady in a little program. She has some probably political backgrounds, but she's talking about these men that says, well, if people have the right to say, I was born this way, but that's not how I feel, then I also have the right to say that. So there's this lady that she is born white, but she thinks she feels black, so she says people have to accept like she's black. There's another one that was born natural, but he says inside himself he feels handicapped, so he chopped his arm. There's another, this is true stories, huh? It's not fake. There's another one that feels, well, I'm a grown-up, but inside I feel a child, and he wants to hire a nanny. So where are we going to stop? Judgment is all switched up, and people think, no, I want to say this, I have to say this. You know this man that just killed the parents and kidnapped the daughter and was holding her for 3 months from October until now January? We were reading the news, and he was saying there in the news, the father was shocked. He was a calm man, very in his own, not interacting with people, even a little bit shy. He was a man that will not go out too much to spend the day in video games. You know, these men that killed 70 people in Europe, Norway, I believe, never touched a gun before. All in video games. You know, the army trains with video games. Why is a pilot trained with video games? If this has no effect, we will talk about video games soon. I don't want to go further. But reasoning, intellect, spirituality, conscience, self-awareness. But now comes the worst part. The power of choice and the will. The control center of the entire being is the frontal lobe. Wait a minute. If this is where you communicate with God, if this is where you have power of will, decision making, judgment, if I start numbing this part, what will start happening to you? Did you notice that in Christianity, from some years now, what we hear the most is people saying, I want it, but I don't feel the power to. You see, the youth is struggling and suffering. They come to church and hear you should be doing this. Then they want to bring it into life, but they don't have power of will. They don't have the ability to do it. The communication with the Lord is being blocked. They have loss of interest for spiritual things because we saw interest for reading and all these things. You see? But now there's the worst part here coming to the scenario. Before I go there, I want to show you this story that proves what I was saying about the frontal lobe. This man, Phineas Cage, he was working in the railroad construction, and he had a little problem as he was testing the dynamite area. He touched on something and it blowed, and a bar was projected through his chin and came out through his frontal lobe. He didn't die, he was projected back, didn't die, managed to survive, but his life changed totally. He was not able to make plans any longer. He started cursing. And a neurosurgeon did some researches about it at Damasio. He did some researches about it, and he found out that there's a moral seat in your brain. It's not just an intangible thing. It's something literal in your brain that will be affected if that part is affected. So moral people, you know that they made research in the brain of serial killers and things like that. For instance, the amygdala is very small. They don't have fear. They don't have notion of consequences. All those things that have to do with the brain. And here, affecting your frontal lobe will affect your moral discernment, will affect your spiritual connection, your ability to make decisions, to make plans, to discern good and right, and the power of will. So he researched on more than 41 people, and he realized that your brain has reactions before you experience some things that are emotional. But now I want to show you another thing here. The frontal lobe is here, But we have those two little things, the thalamus and the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus is controlling, probably Sister Cecile will help us better with this than I will explain this, but nevertheless, is controlling all the hormone and glandular secretion, while the thalamus is the intercommunication for all our emotions, feelings, sensations, and things like that. What happens is this. I want you to realize this. I start watching a movie. And by the way, when I'm in movies, I'm not only talking about Hollywood, okay? Movies are produced now, and the script is made by psychologists mixed with artists, okay, to drive your emotions. So you start your movie, and your emotions they prepare to drive your emotions on what you're going to do, your discernment and your judgment. And I want you to realize this. I watched once a movie with Robert De Niro. It's a long time, right? Because, it's not even around any longer. He will come with a little bag, come before a building, stick the hand on the bag, take a gadget out. Some hook will come out and hook in the window. Then he will start coming up. And you hear this music, right? He comes next to the window. He's holding like this in his musketon. He takes another gadget, opens the window, comes in, and you hear this music. And he comes going to the safe. He sticks the hand on the bag, takes another gadget, find the combination, opens the safe. We start looking at that. Wow, he's gonna get rich, and he's starting taking all that money. But suddenly we hear steps. Okay, somebody's coming, and the song goes. You see, it's like if this falls down, it's just like this. In a movie, it's nothing to do with reality. It's augmented reality, okay? So he started listening to these steps, jumps behind the couch, and he's hiding. And somebody opens the door, turns the light on. And he's approaching the couch because he noticed the window is open. I didn't leave the windows open. And he started going to the windows, but the couch is there. De Niro is all like this behind the couch, and you are all like this in the couch, right? Oh, he's going to get him. Wait. Are you defending the thief? You see? The story is built up with a masterpiece on the wrong side. You know, the devil will never show you something happening. He will always build it up. Have you noticed that? She's agreeing with me, right? Have you noticed that in the movies, I stopped seeing movies about racism, you know? Because, man, in the first 30 minutes of that movie, so many injustices happening that you're like, they should kill these guys. You see? It's like those movies with, you remember, Schwarzenegger and everything. In the beginning of the movie, they do everything to him. They kill his wife, rape his daughter, steal his house, blow up his car, and everything. Then he gets home. He has no other option. They left him with anything. So he goes to the little thing that resisted to this explosion and gets this machine gun. Poor man, everybody has one, right? And he goes out and starts killing them. And you're like, yeah, now you got what you deserve. And then you have the end scene. And they are facing each other. And he sticks the hand on the gun. And he goes first. And you have to have a slow motion for you to understand really that he's bleeding. It's like they have to show you all the details. By beholding, you are changed. So he comes and the guy dies. And people say, yeah, I didn't like this movie. Why? Look, that guy did a lot of bad things and just died with a shot. Do you see now how your concept is changed? People are expecting that he's chopped by an helicopter or something really terrible. Our mind changes because Satan always put it on the other side that now it justifies everything. Satan will never come and say, I want you to lie. You say, no, lying is wrong. Satan will come and say, you know what? I need you to help me. We have 1,000 people. They are hostages in the place. And this guy doesn't know that the army is not coming. And we need you to tell them that the army is coming. Oh, but that's a lie. Are you suggesting we let die 1,000 people? You see the point? I mean, for just one lie, you're going to let 1,000 people die. This is the way he puts things. He always justified. Have you always heard people saying, oh, yeah, but there's a moral, there's into it. Or always they say is based in real life facts. Okay, what I want you to understand is this. While your eyes are receiving flickering light, I have to say this. Where's my, even before that, this is very, very important. I want you to understand, I have just the cell phones. We think, oh, it's evolving so much. Now they don't have a frame. You know why cell phones are now trying to get rid of the frame? They find out that your interaction with the cell phone is like that of a spouse relationship, intimate relationship. It's like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. This is not me speaking. It's not church people speaking. This is researchers. So if you lose your phone, you'll be depressed. People get depressed. If you break your phone, it's like you broke your heart. And they realize that it's like this. The narrower the flickering source of light is, the more you get absorbed from the world around you and focus on that flickering source. And the only thing that is breaking this total numbness and alienation from the world around you is the frame. Because it's still an element that is connecting you to reality. So if we get rid of the frame, you will be totally immersed in this. There's a video on internet. I don't recommend you watch it. They sent it to me. I just started watching it. It's really shocking. It's people being killed because they are absorbed with their cell phones. Stupid deaths. People just crossing without even looking. A busy road in a city. You say, where is this guy? He's not there. And now he's not here for real. But what I mean is, this is the world we are in, because when the flickering lights started getting here, but it's not only one. The video shows like, I was able to see 5 cases, and I say, that's enough. Shocking. The frontal lobe is numbed. The information goes right to be recorded in your brain, and what you're seeing, it's all stimulating the thalamus and hypothalamus. So you start producing hormones. So you're in fact seated in the couch, but you're producing adrenaline, you're producing sexual hormones, you're producing all kind of hormones. Now, put yourself in the position of the youth, for instance. I'm not even married, and I'm watching this, and I'm thinking there's no problem. I'm blocking my power of will, my power of judgment, my power of discernment, engraving all this music, all this content in my head, and receiving a bombarded stimulus of emotions that is making my thalamus and hypothalamus work, and I'm being overloaded with adrenaline, I'm being overloaded with sexual hormones that I now don't have the power to control. Are you seeing what's happening to the spiritual life of people, even in society? And you hear the pattern is always the same. He was a calm guy. One day, something happened. What happened is that all the things that were there just burst out. He was not aware that this was being engraved in his mind. Okay? So what is happening is here. The rational and spiritual part is being blocked, while the sensorial and emotional part is being overstimulated. It's like the war between the flesh or the carnal man and the spiritual man. The spiritual and rational man is being diminished, while the carnal man is being increased. We spoke already about similitude in the morning, so I'm not going to go into this. I want to talk a little bit about video games as I was As I was saying, the problem with video games is that they take all this interaction to the next level. The problem with the way that society evolved with these things is that they took all this interaction to the next level. I want you to realize this. Pornography was a problem 40 years ago. And it was a problem that usually boys had that will come to a certain age, bring some magazines to school, start seeing what they shouldn't. But what happens now, statistics show that pornography rate is as high in men as in women. Are you realizing what this means? Because men are usually more visual. Are you realizing how this is going to affect society, or how it is affecting already? They say that in some places, the age that people start being exposed to pornography, if I'm not mistaken, is between 4 and 7 years old. Now, I want you to realize this. One thing is for a young man to be addicted to see nudity in a magazine. Another thing is for a young man to be addicted to the image of nudity, to the flickering light that is causing numbness, and is creating in him a relationship where he's exposed to that always when he is hypnotized. You understand? To be addicted to the chemical hormones that are being stimulated by his thalamus and hypothalamus to the emotional state. This guy is not only fighting a nudity addiction, he's fighting several addictions at the same time, considering that the power of will is totally shut down. There's no way for him to recover unless changes happen and the Lord come into the sin. You see, this is making harder and harder. You know, have you heard about this case with the opium overdoses that is all over the nation? We had a rise of overdoses. For the first time in history, opium is killing more people than some other high-rate causes of death in our nation. It overpassed the main causes of death that we have. Opium. Addiction is in fact the main thing, and in fact you were mentioning this morning, I'm trying to have our churches being involved in working for the community with this area. This is the big thing. You know what we had as quit smoking plans? That was the problem in the past, but the problem today is addictions. I'm not talking about children, and I'm not talking only addictions to drugs. I'm not talking about children addicted to video games. I'm talking about grown-up men on their 40s, 50s, and 60s addicted to all these kind of things, seriously addicted. A lifetime addicted to these things, destroyed. Okay, what happens with a video game is that the flickering light is much more intense. Then the interaction with the movie is passive, but with a video game is active interaction. I hope you understand. Is a passive, active interaction. Your brain is passive on this reaction, but the hormones you're interacting. You see, for instance, the problem with exposing children to TV or to flickering lights, hypnotic lights, is that while they are under that effect, they are like, and as soon as the hypnotizer goes, it's like they come out of the coma, and now all these adrenaline, all these things that are there, they start moving. And parents say, okay, it's time for another movie. What is happening is that instead of solving the problem, they are increasing the problem. Because what they are doing is each time they put them into the hypnosis, they are recharging all those hormones and all this energy that is there. So whenever you unleash the guy, he goes again into the same mode. And the more you expose him to that, the worse it will become. Where are they? Okay. You are, in a video game, you are interacting with what you have there. Now I want you to pay attention to this. Look, Sanjay Gupta is a doctor from CNN. He made some research showing that the brain has parts that control what is reality and what is fantasy. When you get engaged in video games, the part that controls fantasy starts being stimulating and growing, And the part that controls reality is in fact not being stimulated and sometimes atrophying. But it gets to a point that they start kind of mixing, and your brain start not making a distinction between reality and fantasy. And the more realistic the graphics are, the least. Now I want you to understand the problem with this. Remember what was happening with the monkey that we said? When he would get the peanut, he will react like rewarding. But when the man got the peanut, what happened to him? The same reaction. This is the same thing that happens to somebody in a video game. People think, no, this is just the guy there, but in your brain, the guy there is you. And now you, this is what you're doing. You are in prison. You're going to snatch the guard, knock him down. You gain 50 points. You get his gun, 50 points. You come out and kill 2 guys, 100 points. You go out and steal a car, 200 points. You go out and kill some people, rolling them over with the car, 500 points. And you keep going and go to the next level. You're being rewarded for sin. You know what the Bible says about where sin starts? Whosoever looketh at a woman to lust after her has what? Committed adultery with her. Whosoever kills somebody in a video game, in his mind, has killed. That's why there's a little tiny difference between fantasy and reality when those massive killers and shooters go. This guy just killed his entire family, and he's talking like, oh, I miss them so much, I wanted to come back. He took his daughters and dumped them in an oil tank after killing them, and buried his wife. What happened to him? There's no discernment. Video gamers have no notion of consequence. Got killed again. New life. I have still extra points. You understand? Game over. Okay, stick it again. Start it over. In their minds, life can be always started over. You make a mistake. There's no consequence. You're always thinking something will help you out. You see? This same thing happens with kids that watch cartoons, that the guy, something happens and never dies. Same kind of effect. But here is serious. These people are sinning, not to talk about those games that at the end you have women as reward. Sinning, and they are not even going to confess those sins because they think it's just fantasy. But their mind is taking that as if they were doing it. And it's so real that people then are able to bring it into reality like there's nothing. I want to show you about this program. It is a program called Mind Control. I only watched 2 episodes of this program. One of them was this one. And in this program, they call some advertisers. Okay? Advertisers, they have researches on several things. There's a program that they show how advertisers researched how long can parents stand up before a nagging child. And they found out that parents can resist up to 6 to 7 times. So when you come to the store, the product is 8 to 10 times. 8, 9 times. Because they know that after your kid sees this 6 to 7 times and ask you, you will let go. And this is how terrible this is, okay? So they brought those advertisers and they took them to the program set and in a room, closed room, and said, we have an envelope here. It's going to stay here. We are only opening this envelope when we come back. But now we have a job for you. It's like we are your clients. We're going to tell you what we sell and what we do, and we want you to create a campaign for us. And they say, okay, that's what we do all day long. You say, yeah, but now the challenge is different because you have to create this campaign in 30 minutes or so. You say, what, 30 minutes? So, yes. Are you going to take the challenge? And they say, yes. So they took the challenge. 30 minutes after, the other guy comes back, the host of the program, say, let me see what you got. And they start showing them the things and explaining what they came up to. And he says, now open the envelope. And when he opened the envelope, it's the same campaign. Little differences here and there. And those guys are like, what? And say, now come and I'm going to show you a movie. And they take him and play a movie that is showing their trip to the company. And the things they saw. And this is all, it was all designed for them to see those things and stick in their mind. And all they saw, that's what they put there. They said, we know you are going to do this because we put all those things on your way here. So they were used to work with people's minds, and now it was a trick to them. But now this is just a program. But real life, the program is not going to end. That's why the Lord is telling us to leave the cities, because you're constantly exposed, and by beholding, you get transformed. So I want us to realize what is really happening here. We spoke about this. The Lord wants to engrave His words, His character in our frontal lobe, the seat of our decision making, the seat of our judgment, the seat of our power of will. And we know about what it means. I want you to understand this. Jesus says, from the abundance of the heart comes the mouth speak. What does Jesus mean? He says, it's not what comes in that contaminates the man, but what comes out. And people say, yeah, you can eat whatever you want. This is not what Jesus is trying to say. Jesus is trying to say, yeah, that's what they say, right? Yeah, whoa, go ahead. Jesus is trying to say, you cannot really put out what you don't have in. So if bad things are coming out, it's useless to try to solve the bad things coming out if you don't solve the source of it. I gave this example again. I'm going to say, if you have water all over, it will be ridiculously absurd that the church, we get involved into cleaning, and nobody stops the things. Where is the water coming from? Many times we are trying to deal with things in our spiritual life, trying to stop lying, trying to stop having bad thoughts, trying to stop doing this and that. But we are not understanding that if our heart is deceitful, corrupted, this is what will come out until it's solved. But if we keep putting in and feeding our hearts with bad stuff, we will never make it. Especially if this is made in the stage that we are hypnotized. I remember, I could go back on time 20 years. 20 years. And I remember be sitting in a fast food restaurant, I'm not going to mention the name, and I was talking with some people and my friends, and I was still totally blinded. And I'm talking about children movies and all these kind of things, and this guy is saying, you are nuts. Now the devil is in everything. I say, you are nuts. You think the devil is just sitting there and letting everything happen? Oh yeah, let them have their time. The devil is into everything. The world lays in evil. That's what the Bible says. Everything that he sees is an opportunity. Now, it doesn't mean that we're going to, we are with the Lord, but we have to be aware that everything that comes to this world is a spiritual battle. Either one or the other are going to try to take advantage on this or to win our soul for one side. And Satan is not doing that out of interest for us. So we saw that already, what it means. I just want us to understand this. Have you read in the Spirit prophecy that says that she saw some in the time of trouble with no shelter? What does she mean? Is she talking about worldly people? No, she's talking about church people. Why are they with no shelter? The worst thing is for you to be an Adventist, to know everything that is happening, but to have no power of will to make the right decision. You see Sunday law coming. You know this is not the thing that you should be choosing, but you're not used to be strong and to let go, and you're not going to face an endurement in this trial. This is what will happen. So Satan is not disturbed that we know about Sunday law, that we read all those things, as far as he is able to undermine our activities in such a way that it will reduce our power of choice, our communication with heaven, and engrave his character. I want you to realize this. So the Lord wants to go through this process. Engrave his character. Where do you find God's character? Where is written? In his law. What does the law say? Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not... Right? Now look at this. And the Lord wants to engrave there in the headquarters. Look at what Satan is doing. Let's hypnotize these people. Numb the frontal lobe, the headquarters. Ready to record whatever we put here. No way to filter the information. And let's write the opposite of the character of Jesus. Where Jesus says, thou shalt not kill, we show movies and images where people is killing, and they find it normal. Where it says, thou shalt not lie, we show fictional stories. They know it's not true, but they are used and desensitized to lie. We show stories of people lying. Thou shalt not commit adultery. We show lust. We show all these kind of things. So what Satan is really up to is to engrave his counterfeit character in our frontal lobe. Adventists are really deciding now for where and which side they are going to be when Sunday law comes. You're going to be on the side of the character you have in your frontal lobe. What will happen with the sealing and the mark is that both Satan and Christ will look at your frontal lobe, will look at your character, and recognize themselves there. If Christ recognizes himself and his character in you, he will seal it. If Satan recognizes his character in you, he will mark it. This is what will happen. So people are really deciding which side they're going to be starting today. This is the outcome of what we are deciding today, not the beginning. Now. And you know what? The worst and sadly part is that some of the people are paying Satan to do this. Supporting an industry that is using its profits to all the nonsense to support all kind of things that go against God. How can you be in God's army and supporting the enemy with your funds, with your time, just because you're having fun? You know, the donkey ride going after the carrot? This is what Satan is doing. So I want us to understand really what is happening. He will cause people, because he's conditioning behaviors, judgment, the way of thinking, the mindsets, by the way people are consuming things, and people like it. They like their consumption because it's giving them pleasure, and people are able to do whatever it takes for them to feel rewarded and pleasure. If we don't let go self, if you're not willing to let self be, if you're not going to go into self-denial, there's no way to win. This is how the mark will come. Okay? God's law versus the counterfeit law, that's what Satan is trying to do. Satan is trying to undermine or reduce the power of your light. People look at, hey, my spirituality is not as it was. And they are not realizing, I said this, they are not realizing, oh yeah, and when you tell them, are you doing this? Yeah, come on, but that's not, it's just a little thing. Are you doing that? Oh, not, yeah, but I'm not going to try to say this is, but when you put it all together, it's like if you had a lot of little holes on your lamp, and little by little your oil is draining out, and you see the light dimming, but you think, why is the light dimming? Why is my life not the same spiritually? I'm still holding my light, my lamp straight. I'm still trying to hold it, but you're not seeing that those little things are draining. It's not the big foxes, but the little foxes that will make the difference. So I want to finish with our sentence that I would like you to take home. All should guard the senses. Read with me, please. All should guard the senses, lest Satan gain victory over them, for these are the avenues of the soul. That's the only way for him to have access. I'm going to give you some little time for questions and answers. If you have some comment or something that you would like to ask, this is the time. Yes, sister. Wait, I think you have to take the microphone. Even the names of the games are like the names of the movies. It's all spiritual. They get the Bible texts. I think they put it in a bowl, shake it, and then bring anyone and mix them all.
I don't know if any of you have ever heard of The Sims. Okay, you can choose whatever lifestyle you want to have and just make your little characters, and they do their little thing. Just like you have some of these games, you can actually own other little people, where you can pretend like you're like a god over a city, and you have your subjects. And anyway, it was interesting because one of my nieces, she's not a Christian. She must have been about maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. Anyway, the kids figure out this stuff. Even if, I don't know how they'll do it. 3, 4 years old can find stuff on phones that adults would never know is there. Anyway, it was interesting that my little nieces were doing some little game, and they were talking about certain characters are breeders. Okay? They have all these little people, and certain little men in the game are breeders. And they run around, and they get the other little characters pregnant and stuff. The little kids are figuring this stuff out in the little game. And I was like, huh? And they're talking about it. Yeah, see, she's pregnant. They're going to make a baby. And so you have the workers, and then you have the men who are called the breeders. And I thought that was really pretty messed up, because you do have a lot of people in society who behave that way. A lot of the men today are just nothing but breeders. And
yeah, breeders. I was not understanding also.
Baby makers. You understand now? Baby makers?
Yeah, I got it now.
Baby,
I understand.
Baby
readers.
makers.
Yeah, baby makers. Yes.
Yes. And of course, they're not married or anything. They just run around. If you have a little lady character running from them, and they catch them, and pretty much they can do whatever they want, and then the little character runs off. No consequences. And I was reading an article some time ago about how the internet, everything is affecting people's communication. People don't know how to talk to each other, how to interact.
Yes.
They're so attached to their cell phones, and how it's affecting the dating world. And I'm telling you, I come across men, younger and older. They're all a little psycho.
You think so?
Well, they can talk. They can actually talk on the phone to you, even if they've never met you, and can think they own you. It's a very wild, crazy world now. They will kill you. They will kill you over a conversation where they think they own you. Never interacted really with you.
You know
They're
what, sister?
dangerous.
We are not even aware of how affected the world is. And I do believe the medicine that will come when the Holy Spirit withdraws will let us see what has really been made. I mean, you cannot be watching all your entire lives, killing after killings after killings violently, and be desensitized and still not be affected to it. It's impossible.
And I'll mention that these men, I'm talking about church men.
Okay.
It's the same with the church ones and outside. Some
well,
of the church ones
because, church people are being as exposed to these things as anyone else, because we are not filtered. If you go to see the nighttime, the evening, Sabbath evening, Saturday evening, you will see that the program, except for the salami, is the same. You understand what I'm talking? Except for the how do you call it? The pork. But like we have a different pizza, it's like we think if we change a little bit here, we are already having a sanctified life. Ellen White has this vision where she saw the people with cards saying death to the world, or dead to the world, and that the other people were asking them, why should I go to your church? Because I don't see any difference between you and the world. But they were believing they were okay. So we have to watch out. And again, I said, my counsel would be, there was a time when Adventists wouldn't eat pork. I'm not saying they eat now. I'm saying, and people will look at them and say, why don't you eat pork? And Adventists couldn't really say, well, we'll believe it's not the best. But now everybody knows. The first thing that the doctor tells you, for those that were faithful, they were preserved. Those that thought, well, there's not really a reason. And it's the same thing. The safe, cards. Some people came, for instance, Pastor, have you seen the other side of Coca-Cola? He says, devil, hello devil, or something like that. I say, look, I didn't even have to turn the bottle to say this is not good for me. You see, if you don't ignore the little things, you will not be caught by the bad things. And I'm not here trying to undermine any brand or anything. I'm just trying to say that we know and we have principles. If we stick to those principles and trust the Lord, even when we don't understand, we will be protected. What did God tell the Egyptians, the Israelites, when they came out of Egypt? If you do what I'm telling you, none of the diseases that are coming to the Egyptians will get to you. What is God saying? He's saying that if you follow my principles, you will not be in trouble. The plagues are the result also of people despising what the Lord told them they should not be doing. Okay. So Sister Natasha and then Sister Rose.
A couple examples.
You have to share the baby there.
Just working at Olive Pit over here in Paris for 2 years, there were several times I observed how antisocial people are becoming because of their phones. And back 10 years ago, when you go to serve a plate of food, people are happy for their food and they move out of the way. But now people literally are standing there with their food and their phone is out. And they see their server and they're not going to move out of the way. I'm like, whoa. And this other time, this couple, they had just had a baby. She was probably 2-3 months of age, the child. And they had an iPad in the carrier, and it was flickering, and when it went off, that baby went hysterical. And so to appease the child, they turned it back on. So it's just a scary thought. Then this other time, in that same booth, I had these two gentlemen.
God have mercy on us.
Yeah,
I
Lord
tell
have
you.
mercy. And we're really the first generation with smartphones, so we don't understand
what's
coming up.
Yeah.
And there was this other time, I had these two gentlemen come in. It was a father and his son. His son looked to be maybe a couple years younger than myself. And the dad said it was his first time eating there, so he was kind of inquiring about the different items. And there are a lot of vegan and vegetarian items, but he was a meat eater. But anyway, they ordered their drinks. I went back, came back, and I saw the son was kind of just taking his phone and flipping it like this and showing his dad. And I thought maybe it was a picture of his girlfriend that he was telling his dad about. And he says, so do you have a tender? I said, you mean like chicken tenders? No, I'm sorry, we don't have those here. And they just laughed and laughed, and so I went to the back and I asked the other servers, am I missing something? These guys are just laughing about them, asking for tenders.
Oh, okay.
Apparently there's a dating application where there's just pictures of people, and you swipe if you like yes, you swipe one way, no, you flip the other way, and then somebody said there's like a hip-hop song out there. I said, are you serious? So I went and had a word with that young man and told him all these sermons that he needed to watch, had it listed out. Told him, I said, you should go to church if you're looking for a good woman. And his dad said, oh, I try to tell him that too. And then he said, I'm just trying to find the easy way. I said, oh, so did Abraham and Sarah. And I look hypocritical now, but at the time, So, but I pray that young man, went home and watched those sermons.
There's a talk. The world is also sensitive to this. You can pass it to Sister Rose. There's a, TED Talk is a sequence of programs. They have several topics there. Some of them are really good. And there's this guy, Simon. He came to talk about the influence on society about devices. And this generation that was exposed to cell phones and these kind of devices are now coming into the market to work. And they say it's the worst problem because these people are used to instant rewarding and instant getting. So you click on Amazon, it's coming the next day. You do this and you do that. And what happens is that after 6 months working, if they last that long, 1 year at most, these guys want to quit, and they say, "Why? Well, I'm not really feeling accomplished. I'm not. But you are here for 6 months. What do you want to accomplish? Well, but I'm not feeling that I'm fulfilling." And you see, and these people, it's like you cannot really. They grew up in a generation where there were no consequences, school, good grades, no matter what. These concepts that were brought into several schools that you cannot tell people. If you smile, this is offensive to me because I have no teeth. It's like our society is going in this reality. So you go to the world, to the workforce, you cannot the boss will not say, good job, we just lost 3 clients there. He's not going to try to instant gratify you for something. He's going to tell you, look, we need to strive harder. Even if he's well polite, when he's not going to tell you, yeah, you messed it up. Even if he goes very, very polite, for them, this is very overwhelming. Because you're not used to have to face any no or anything. I mean, there are serious cases in social media of people killing themselves because of serious shame. But there are some cases of really things that were nothing, and these people lost their lives, or pranks or ways, challenges and things like that are absurd. And it's creating a lying world, because people are sometimes taking pictures of what is really not happening. Just a fake scenario. After 150 pictures, they picked one, and it's not even the place. They are not even at the gym. They are not even doing anything there. And people are depending. You know, this is a good thing about homeschooling. Homeschoolers, they tend to be leaders because they are not depending on peer pressure for decisions. We are going into a generation that grew up in a peer pressure world. So it's like when one will say, have you seen animals that one does something crazy, but nobody is noticing that this guy just died, and everybody one after the other. This is what we are going through, because look at the dependency that the people have for a like. Are you realizing this? It's like you post something, and you're now. Some people get depressed because you only get 150 likes in this picture, you know? And what is happening here is that when people are going into this kind of world, they are really not happy. You know, social media people are the ones, people in entertainment in general, are the ones with the highest rate of depression. Isn't that weird? Well, if you are the one that is more entertained, children, I really need you to take a different step, otherwise I'll have to take a different one. If you are entertained, shouldn't you be happy? Why are you depressed? It's the same effect as coffee. It's a stimulant, but then your energies go down. Sister Rose.
Oh, I was just, what Natasha was saying. Two things. I remember this gentleman he had a thrift store, and he kind of lived in the back. But his daughter came home with a baby, and he had to help the daughter. She had to work, and the child was just months old, and he had to look at the thrift store and help people. So he had her in the playpen, and she had DVDs in front of her all day.
Wow.
And he said when he takes it away, she cries. And I mean, I was a little blown away by that, you know. I was trying to tell him the effects
I
of
really
it.
get disturbed when I hear these kind of things, because I
Yeah.
imagine 5 years from now, 10 years from now,
Yeah.
if you're starting there.
But what I wanted to say, you
Whoa.
mentioned Exodus 15:26. If you obey me, I will not inflict you with these diseases. But you hear now in the church, well, we live in a world of sin. Oh, what about Job? Hello? That was an exception with Job. But many people want to eat as they want, live as they want, and then say, well, we live in a world of sin. But that is not what God is telling us.
Well,
If
Jesus
we
also
obey.
lived in a world of sin.
Yeah.
Okay. I think, okay, we have another question here.
This is something I'm struggling with. I heard a Pastor Pippin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing and I'm seeing all that you're doing there and all that's going on, and I wonder what's going to be the outcome of this for us as God's people.
Mm-hmm.
And if obviously we can't handle it. We cannot. And we are out there in an ocean of technology. And Pastor Pippin said that the internet is the modern day version of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It is the modern day version of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And it has saturated our lives so much. And I'm not talking about the world. I'm talking about God's people. And we have 1,000,001 excuse as to show the good side of it. But the tree of the knowledge of good and evil had good and evil. And what did God say about that? He said to play with it, or he said stay away from it. What should we do?
Okay, my answer to that will be this. This is a very sensitive topic. It's not complicated. It's just sensitive because if you say one thing, you know this man that came to a pastor and said, Pastor, is it okay to drink coffee? And the pastor said, no. Then he said, okay. Then came to another pastor that came to preach in his church and said, Pastor, is it okay to drink coffee? And the pastor said, no. He said, okay. Then one day he was visiting another place and there was a pastor who said, Pastor, is it okay to drink coffee? He said, yeah. But some people have prejudice about coffee. And he went home and drank his coffee and said, the pastor said, yes. So sometimes when you answer these kind of things, people will try to take it to one side or the other. It's like some things we say we are doing it because of the world or because of evangelism or because of this and that, but we are really doing them because we want. So many times we find reasonable excuses to do what we want. But on the other hand, we cannot undermine the fact that we live in this world. It's like, if we go literally like that, we should not drive our vehicles because exhaustion is really destroying nature. So I'm not saying that we should compromise. I don't want to be misunderstood in my words. We should, first, I don't believe we should be watching anything straight. I will explain why. Radio that is just popping up music and whatever, not for me. TV that is just popping up music whatsoever, not for me. Because, well, I've been in places to preach when we used to go and preach in many places about the word of the senses. And once in a while they say, I'm preaching about this, I have to know at least what is happening around. I will turn the TV in the place where I was. It wouldn't last more than 3 to 5 minutes for me to be right away exposed to something and I will have to turn it off. 3 to 5 minutes. How can you spend 3 hours in front of this? Of course, this will have an effect. Internet is the same thing. But also, we cannot ignore that we live in this world and there are ways to use these tools. What I'm trying to say is this. I can try to solve everything by sending post mails. But I can send you a text message or a email that will get to you now. You'll give me an answer now. You see, if we go back to the last century, the previous one in the beginning, if I would have to go to your house to tell you prayer meeting is canceled, you will be probably here by the time I will get there. You see, now I can just text you. So it's a different reality. But of course, I want to say something that has to do with empowering what you were saying. The book, A Trip into Supernatural, Roger Monroe says that in the beginning of the century, Satan had a big gathering with his angels, his demons, because he perceived by prophecy that this age where people will go back and fro will be the perfect age to separate people from God. So we are really overloaded, and if we really don't take any action to live a different life, I know people that don't have social media, they've survived. And sometimes when I preach about these, people say, what? Throwing away my TV? What will I do? And I joke with them. I say, you know what? For 6,000 years, men were just sitting in the living room waiting for TV to be invented. There was nothing to be done. In fact, I tell you, since I stopped having TV, I wonder how can people survive with the TV, because it drains your time totally away. I don't know, how can you manage to do all that you have to do? Because me, without the TV, I'm having a hard time. I can't even imagine you with a TV. I mean, you notice you can really live without it. Just one last thing. I had a cell phone, and I was very addicted to cell phone. I had once the time that I had a bill that was $1,000 just for my cell phone, not considering the home phone and all the things. Euros, it was euros. And so, when the bill came, I said, cannot pay this. I was not married, so Sarah was not in this. I cannot, maybe that was my problem. I was not married yet. I had to, the Lord was good. So, I could not pay the bill. I had to be without cell phone for 1 or 2 months. And then I realized, you know what? I can live without this. Since then, didn't worry. Sarah and I, for a long time, we had only one cell phone. Our first GPS was in 2014. You know, when we came to U.S., in fact, the first time each one of us had a cell phone was here. You see, and somebody gave it to us. So, some of the things we think are basic needs, and you can't survive without them. Just try. In fact, once you said that, I'm going to have a challenge for you. You know what? Sometimes we preach in present truth churches, and you say, well, I even thought, Sarah was asking, are you going to present this in Camden? I said, yeah, maybe not. I don't think anyone is facing this problem there. And she said, well, you never know. Sometimes we think, yeah, it's not a problem here, because usually when I present this in other churches, what I do, I make an appeal at the end. I challenge people to go to a 40 days diet. You know, after 30 days, your body gets used to a new cycle, and you consolidate that in 40 days. I challenge people, well, you think you're not addicted to TV, I'm going to challenge you to go 40 days without a TV. If you already got desperate, that's how addicted you are. If on the 5th day you are, that's exactly the syndrome of abstinence that an addicted one goes through. So I want us to realize this, and I want to challenge you. If there's something in your life that is taking over, why don't you go for a fasting? I said diet, but I meant fasting. What I challenge people is for the fasting. Why don't we go for a fasting? So I say, most of the times, things that start really good, Satan is very patient, and he waits until they take over. It's just a matter of time. So some things might have taken over. Okay? Still want to say something, bro? Let's finish with a word of prayer. And we do the sunset prayer also, and ask for a blessing for this week. Brothers and sisters, I want to tell you, I love my church. I love every single one of you. I'm happy to be here. And I want to encourage you that we may get more and more close to each other, more and more loving with each other, although in present truth and seeking for righteousness, that we may unite for whatever challenges may come, that we may be together, that we may strive to encourage and support each other in our challenges. Let us pray for a blessing upon this week. Beloved Father, from now until the time of the challenges that are up to come very soon, it will be just a blink of an eye, a clink. We are, no matter how many times we talk about those things, about prophecy, about what is to come, we are not at all alert and aware of the reality. Your servant says that many times we imagine a crisis worse than it is when it comes. But for the last crisis, it is not so. Even in a present true church, we have no clue. We are so Laodiceans that we can't even imagine. We are so desensitized by culture that we can't even imagine. I'm glad that we are here already in a more countryside environment, but we still have a long way to go. Help us to be encouraged by how much we have progress through your power in our lives. But help us also with trust and faith and hope to look at how much we still have to accomplish in your power. I ask for protection upon our church in Camden. I ask for protection upon our churches in the district. I ask for protection upon your church worldwide, your people, the ones you want to bring out of the Babylonian system, the ones you want to preserve for eternity, that we may never lose track and sight of what is awaiting for us up there. Eternity. We repeat this so many times that sometimes it becomes just a sentence, a word. This is real. And you have granted this for us. If we trust you, you will take us there. Help us every day to reflect and meditate upon this so that this may be real. Help us not to be just surrounded by these devices and distractions that give us instant gratification, but to be willing to wait for something better that you have for us. I pray for blessings upon the week of every church member here, and for those that are not here, that you may be with us, that you may inspire us, and I pray for a blessing upon our district. In Jesus' name, amen. Have a good week. May the Lord help you in